Hey everybody, it's Jeff, Aromatics, finally back with another pipe tobacco review. It's been quite a while since my last one. It's just because my cellar is so wide now and I've been collecting tobacco for such a long time that it's rare that something strikes my fancy and makes me want to purchase more when I already have so much. But during the Black Friday sales, I was just shopping around and I saw a few newer ones that kind of struck, that kind of piqued my interest, and I figured I would take a chance on them. And so look forward to some more reviews coming. I've got probably about six new tobaccos coming to try out, so look forward to those. Today the one that I'll be reviewing is Missouri Meerschaum's Party Line. So I saw Smoking Pipes advertising this on Instagram and it sounded kind of interesting. In the cooler weather and just in general, I've found myself really settling into just kind of a codger style burleys or a nice nutty burley that has a little bit of an aromatic feel to it. Especially just the classics like the Carter Hall type, that style. So anyway, this kind of sounded like it would be somewhere in that wheelhouse. And I'll give you the description right here that's on the tin, and it says a cake cut blend of nutty burley, Cavendish, and St. James Perique, topped with subtle notes of peaty scotch and a hint of cocoa. Party Line honors our founder Henry Tibb's son, Anton Tibb, who installed Washington's first telephone line in 1883. Now, Party Line, for those of you who don't know, I actually had one when I was growing up out in the suburbs, or not in the suburbs, but more rural areas, where what it is more than one family or household will share a telephone line. So I think ours actually had 4 different people sharing the same line. So you would know that it's ringing for you if it had you'd have a certain ring. Like it might be a long ring and a short ring, or a long ring and a long ring. Now the problem with these party lines is you could listen into other people's conversations, although you would know if someone is, because you could just hear the static in the background. So it wasn't a huge issue, and you couldn't use your phone if someone else was using it. But that's kind of how they saved money back in the day, or maybe they just didn't have enough phone lines to go around. I don't really know, but that's what a party line is. Now, when I saw this, and I heard the review, I kind of thought, I already have another tobacco that has kind of that whiskey scotch bourbon flavoring, and that is, I actually have it here with me, Pennington Gap. And this actually sounded very similar because Pennington Gap's the same thing. It's cube cut burley, Perique, and black Cavendish, as well as a bourbon topping. So it's kind of like, I'm hoping they're not the same blend, just repackaged. But the description that the review said it was kind of chocolatey. There's a chocolate note to it. So I thought, maybe this has kind of got that kind of more of a codgery type of feel to it. So I took a chance on it. So the smell I get out of the tin is actually very similar to Pennington Gap. It smells like a whiskey or a bourbon, although this one is sweeter. There's a little bit of a sweeter smell to it. My friend said Christmas cake, but to me it just smells like kind of like an alcohol-y type of topping. It's very pleasant though, and definitely not as deep and as earthy as the Pennington Gap is. So there is a difference. So let's light up and give you some tasting notes. I'm smoking it in my MT pipe today, my Author. So it is, a crumble cake. So it's your typical ribbon pressed into a nice hard cake. I actually really like this style. Takes up a lot less space, it's easy to peel off, and it's usually good to go right out of the tin. I dry mine out a bit, but it feels like it's good enough to smoke for most people, I think, right out of the tin. Now the flavor I get right from the start was very similar to Pennington Gap. It's very earthy and dark. Burns fantastic. So the burleys are out front, but they're not the burleys that I was expecting. I have to say, initially I was a little bit disappointed because, number one, it's very similar to Pennington Gap, and I already have, so I wanted something a little more different. I wanted something more sweeter and codgery and maybe more cocoa, and you don't really taste cocoa, like an aromatic cocoa. So I would say there's 2 sides to this. There's the one side, which is the burley, but the burley is not, to me, a nutty burley as much as it is a earthy, dark nut type of burley, maybe. The closest thing I could describe it would be Haunted Bookshop is kind of what the burley, or the burleys from the burley flakes. It's a real deep, dark, earthy, strong ambiance going on there. And on the other side, there's that peaty, scotchy. I would even say more than a peaty scotch. It reminds me of a chocolate stout. If you've ever had the real dark chocolate stout beers. And there's a bitterness there too that I think some people might find off-putting. Maybe it's just sometimes these tobaccos, they need about a year to mellow out a little bit. If you know me, I'm not a big fan. Like, I don't really make a big deal out of aging tobaccos, but there's certain ones that it just needs a while for that alcohol to kind of burn away and let the flavors settle into the tobacco. And that might take away a little bit of the bitterness that's there. But if you like chocolate stouts, beer, like a beer kind of taste, it kind of reminds me of that. It's got a little bit of that bitterness that you'd get from a dark stout beer, a porter. If you like, well, it's funny that usually when you get a tobacco that has like an alcohol or some sort of rum topping or bourbon, they're usually sweet. And when I have a bourbon in real life, it's not sweet. It's dark and rich, and I just don't find it sweet. So if you're looking for a tobacco that's more like an actual dark stout, peaty scotch with earthy burleys, then this will be right up your alley with a little bit of bitterness. But if you're looking for something codgery and sweet and real bright and aromatic and nutty, I don't really think you're going to get that here. That's pretty much all I have to say for it. I'm on the fence of what I think about it at the moment, just because it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. But sometimes once the expectations dwindle and you start smoking something for a while, you start appreciating it for what it is. I think it's just a little bit too similar to Pennington Gap, although it's a little bit milder. So if you found Pennington Gap good, but a little bit too burley forward, too strong with the cube cut style burleys, then this might be a little bit more in your wheelhouse. Although I find this a little bit more bitter. Maybe that's because of the chocolate that's added, if there is chocolate added to it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Have any of you guys tried this? I haven't seen any other too many reviews on this, so I'm kind of curious as to what other people think of it. I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed my review, and I'll see you in my next one. So till then, Aromatics, signing out.